While many associate it with cozy gatherings and delicious feasts, few are aware of its darker history. Today, we're diving deep into a holiday often celebrated with turkey, family, and gratitude, Thanksgiving. Hello and welcome back to another Weird Rewind. Join us as we venture beyond the conventional stories and into the lesser-known tales of this iconic holiday. Thanksgiving isn't just celebrated in the US. Countries such as Canada, Grenada, Liberia, and even parts of the Netherlands have their own versions of Thanksgiving, although celebrated on different dates and for various reasons. While each has its own unique traditions and stories, the theme of giving thanks is universal. Traditionally, the story goes something like this. In 1620, the Mayflower carried a group of settlers known as the Pilgrims to Plymouth Rock. The Pilgrims were a group of English Puritans who had originally fled to the Netherlands to escape religious persecution in their homeland. However, they soon became disillusioned with the Dutch way of life, fearing a loss of their cultural identity and further religious compromise. Their pursuit of a place where they could freely practice their faith led them to the New World. Upon reaching America's shores, they faced a brutal winter and the formidable challenge of an unfamiliar terrain. Many didn't survive those initial months. However, with the invaluable assistance of the Wampanoag tribe, especially from individuals like Squanto, they learned to work the land, grow crops, and forge a life in this new world. Their first successful harvest was in 1621 and was a significant achievement, considering the adversities they'd already faced. This led to a communal feast, often hailed as the first Thanksgiving. Yet, this narrative, while touching, glosses over the deeper complexities and interactions that took place between the settlers and the indigenous people. It's also worth noting that this account has been simplified and romanticized over the centuries, potentially masking the more somber realities of the time. First of all, pilgrims didn't just happen upon a deserted place ready for settlement. The village they named Plymouth had once been Patuxet, a thriving Wampanoag community. The land was available because diseases brought by earlier European explorers had decimated indigenous populations. You see, prior to the Pilgrims' arrival, European explorers and traders had been visiting the Americas for decades. They unintentionally introduced diseases such as smallpox, measles, and influenza to native communities, and these communities had no immunity to these new diseases. It's estimated that between 1616 and 1619, a plague reduced the Massachusetts Bay indigenous population by up to 90%. This catastrophic event made lands like Patuxet appear abandoned to the incoming pilgrims. The story of Squanto assisting the pilgrims is often portrayed positively, but his past is a dark tale of deceit and betrayal. Before meeting the pilgrims, Squanto had been captured by an English sea captain, sold into slavery in Spain, and after escaping, made his way to England. He returned to America as an interpreter for an English explorer. By the time he finally made it back to his homeland, his tribe had been completely wiped out by disease. Please comment below if you'd like to see a full video on this extremely interesting individual. Now, going back to that iconic feast in 1621, it was not actually called Thanksgiving by the Pilgrims. It was actually a traditional English harvest festival. While there were moments of harmony, it wasn't a sign of lasting peace. In fact, the decades following saw an increased amount of tension and violence between settlers and Native Americans. Just over a decade later, the strained relations culminated in the Pequot War. One horrifying event from this war was the Mystic Massacre in 1637. English settlers, allied with some native tribes, attacked the Pequot village near the Mystic River. They set it ablaze, and those who tried to escape were killed. Following this massacre, the governor of the Massachusetts Bay Colony declared a day of Thanksgiving. Thus, in a twisted way, this day of gratitude was intertwined with victory in brutal warfare. Trade agreements and treaties were repeatedly made and broken. As more English settlers arrived, their encroachments on native lands increased, leading to further tensions. The Native American perspective of these events is heart-wrenching. They watched as their sacred lands were taken, their populations decimated by disease and war, and their traditions and rights continuously infringed upon. By the 1670s, tensions reached a boiling point in what's now known as King Philip's War. The Native Americans, led by Metacom who the English called King Philip, waged war against the English settlers. It is one of the bloodiest conflicts per capita in American history. The war was devastating for both sides, but especially for the Native American tribes of the region. At the war's conclusion, indigenous power in New England was broken for generations. So why isn't this all common knowledge? Over the centuries, the narrative around Thanksgiving became sanitized and simplified. The 19th century saw a surge of nationalism in America. During this time, the tale of pilgrims and Native Americans sharing a peaceful meal fit well with the image that America wanted to project. It's easier to celebrate unity than to grapple with centuries of conflict and dispossession. As we sit down to our Thanksgiving feasts, it's essential to remember the full history behind the holiday. Thanksgiving offers us a moment to reflect, not just on our blessings, but on understanding, reconciliation, and the importance of acknowledging the past. After all, it's only by facing the darker parts of our history that we can hope to light the way for a brighter, more inclusive future. If you celebrate Thanksgiving, enjoy every moment and every bite, but take a minute to reflect. Even today, Indigenous peoples are fighting for their rights globally. Let's honor them by not only understanding their past, but by actively supporting their rights and recognizing their invaluable contributions to our shared histories. As global citizens, it's our responsibility to uplift and protect Indigenous peoples' rights worldwide, ensuring their voices are never stifled or forgotten. Thanks for joining us on this journey through the deeper, more complex story of Thanksgiving. If you found this enlightening, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into history. And remember, keep questioning the past to understand the present. See you in the next rewind.